Hello out there. Thank you for joining me here on this video. There's often the question, should I do a ayahuasca retreat just with ayahuasca? Or when am I ready to do a master plant diet, like including the world of another plant to learn and to heal and to be connected to? And I know sometimes we really want to have a very clear answer. Yes, no, that's right, that's wrong. In my experience, so the more I'm learning with plant medicine, for me, there is in many ways, and probably in most of the ways, no this answer. That's right, that's wrong. That's a completely yes, a completely no. I learn more and more that it's based very individually, and that it's so complex. If in your belly, in your system comes a yes or a no, that it's not possible to rationalize that. And I understand if you come from a place where you don't have the experience, or there are a lot of blockages to your intuition, because you learned at some point you can't trust your intuition. And sometimes we are very covered up with different things, and we are not connected to a true yes or no in us. I see and understand that. And in this moment, it's really good to ask someone who has experience. So very often people come to me and they ask, what do you think? Should I just start with ayahuasca, or should I continue learning with ayahuasca, or would it be great to do a dieta? And then in the case with my maestros, we work with trees and the world of the trees. And I want to share here a little bit more about it. So when I started my journey, I started with ayahuasca, and at some point I started to do the dietas with Shibibo maestros. And I had the calling for a very, very big tree very, very early in my ayahuasca experience. Maybe I had 20, 30 ayahuasca ceremonies, and I had this calling without knowing what it is and without understanding for this big, big tree, which is called Nuyarau. And I met someone who had way more experience than I had. And she said to me, hey, maybe it's too early to do a dieta with this big tree. And she spoke from her experience and she really wanted good for me, and I really appreciated her answer. But for me, and I always had a very strong sense of listening to my own voice. It was like, okay, I listened to her and I really put her answer in. But then again and again, I felt like, wow, this tree is calling. And what happened was, I met again and again people who dieted this tree, and it was in 2015. And again, I was like, wow, universe shows me these doors and opportunities to find certain maestros to work with this tree. And that's how I found my maestros, because I was following this tree. And then it turned out, again and again, I heard the Mauer lineage is really good with this tree. So I found my maestros, and I started in 2016. I acknowledged what my friend told me, who had more experience. And I was waiting a little bit, and I did a dieta with other trees, which are also big, before I started in 2016 the journey with this tree, where I committed to, okay, you are my teacher my whole life. This was a strong commitment, and it didn't come from here. It came from very deep inside, and I didn't know at that time where I'm committing to. So what I want to share is, yes, there's a lot of reason why to decide I start just with ayahuasca, and when I want to continue learning, I start to diet at some point. And I have to say, in the last years, working in diets, working with the trees, observing different people, in the work with my maestros, I have to say, who went into dietas and with very little experience, but they felt the call. They even had dreams about the trees, and they really felt it. And I started already a few years ago to say, okay, first time ayahuasca, and we have individual communications, and the person felt the call for the tree, and I was inquiring. We had some online sessions before, and I was like, okay, I feel you're ready for the tree, and I always trust there is higher wisdom involved. And in my experience, if someone feels the call to do the dieta straightforward with the tree, without any ayahuasca experience, there is higher wisdom and guidance in it, which is way more knowing than I have to say, hey, maybe better first start with ayahuasca. There's way more in it. And I could see that people with no ayahuasca experience before, going straight into a dieta, had brilliant results and received exactly what they needed. And, you know, like my first 1-2 years when I offered the groups with my Shibibo maestros to diet, my recommendation was, if someone came the first time with ayahuasca, I said, hey, first start with ayahuasca, build a relationship up to ayahuasca, to yourself with ayahuasca. Let's grow that. Make these steps first. And then, depending how your integration goes, next time you do the next step and you can diet a tree. And still, you know, like this was a very strict rule for me in the beginning. And still, I see that there's a lot of truth and sense in it. And I still recommend that sometimes to people. And I learned that it's not for everyone. That some people also, they really feel ready for the tree and they directly dive in and they receive what they need. And I have also to say, I learned with my maestros as well. Like they told me in the beginning, I went a little bit against their approach when I said only ayahuasca, no diet. And it really came from my Western understanding, not to overwhelm the people, to make it step by step, the process. And my maestros were, okay, if you want that, but I could, every time I could sense that actually they were fine with open the diet, because they said, hey, the other plants, the diet tree, you know, we work, if it's Bobinzana or Nuyera or, you know, other plants where some of my maestros work with, they said it helps them. It helps them and it connects the different ceremonies and they are more whole. They are more whole together because the tree is really holding also the wisdom of the ayahuasca and the network of the Zama. The Zama is the diet teachings, the diet world, the diet energy. It supports them where they are on their journey. And it needed a little bit. I had some resistance because I was like, oh, it's overwhelming and step by step, you know, like first with ayahuasca, then with the tree. It made so much sense for me. But with my experience, and I know other people have other opinions, and that's totally fine. I think we all have the right and the space to develop our own, through our own experience, our own opinions and views. And I understand if someone says, no way, first someone needs to start with ayahuasca and then they can come to diet. I understand that. And I really want to share here that I opened over the last years more and more to the insight and to the learning. For some people, it's not overwhelming, it's supportive to have the energy of the tree with them in the system. And I don't know, of course, how other maestros work. And what I share is connected to the Icaro and to the energetically work and the energetically connection to the worlds of the trees through my lineage and my maestros. And I never saw that someone is overwhelmed or left completely overwhelmed. I never experienced that. Sorry. And so the higher wisdom of these trees and diets worlds is mysterious. And my learning is I have absolutely trust that this higher wisdom, channeled through a skillful maestro, always gives the person what is needed. And you always get what you can handle. And sometimes it might push you on the limit. But in my observation and experience with my maestros, it was never too much. And I'm there, of course, to facilitate. And I think this is something unique or what not everyone is providing in other retreats. I'm working with my maestros since many years, and I'm learning and dieting with them. So I feel like my facilitation, their Icaros, and the plants are offered to diet. We are one network, and we hold that, and we synchronized and harmonized, and we created a certain stability, how we support together the process. And this is something what I really, really honor. The connection to my maestros and the connection to my diets. Because this gives this safe container for all of us. And so thank you to my maestros, thank you to the plants, and I hope this explanation helped you a little bit in your own decision or in your own learning or creating beliefs or opinions. First, just ayahuasca. Yes, makes sense, absolutely. Or do you have the feeling, hey, I'm ready and I have the tools to dive in a dieta? And one thing I want to add, like, yes, diving into dieta, for me, it needs a really clear commitment for you that you want to learn and change and grow. And everything what you learn through higher wisdom, through ceremonies, through your process, you are committed to integrate and implement in your life. Also, if there are obstacles, Shibi will say these are tests, pruebas. You know, seeing it as a learning and continuing going through being committed. And there's, for me, a difference with just ayahuasca or including higher plant forces connected to the universe. Because if you learn something, you can't ignore it. If you ignore what you learn for a longer while, universe will hit you, life will hit you until you remember what you learned and you realize I have to implement that. And I'm aware all kind of people experience that. You don't need to work with higher plant forces, but then it gets more forceful. And it can be a beautiful gift because it helps you to align and to move forward into wholeness and healing and empowerment with these forces. But if you don't listen and you resist, of course we are all humans and we are not always linear going forward, and we receive our teachings and then we align. But if you really start to go in a big phase of resignation, numbing, etc., it can really shake you through with a lot of instability. So if you want to diet, you need the commitment to yourself. I really want to learn and grow and heal, whatever it asks from me. I hope this was a little helpful. Ciao.